Hi, everybody, and welcome to a special episode of From Illumination to Innovation. Me and my co-host Shaniqua Brown are going to be recording from a new location today because we want to play with technology and do cool things. So I am Stephanie Crain, and I am one of your co-hosts. I am the corporate mystic and owner of Tapas Innovation. And I will turn it over to Shaniqua to introduce our show.
Yes, I am Shaniqua Brown, the founder and president of Elevated TA, the premier hiring partner for government agencies. And our show today, we are both thrilled to kick off our, as Stephanie put it, our special generation series. And today we're diving deep into more about the generational divide and exploring the impacts, and we want to have a more positive conversation about this divide and essentially bridging the gap, bringing us all together. And we're talking about the generations from a business, societal, and cultural perspective. And of course, it's Stephanie and I, so we're going to have a lot of fun along the way.
I think we both have so much to say about this subject. And I love that we also get to come at it from such different perspectives. And I think that that's sort of what stimulated wanting to do this to begin with, is, that we were sharing our own unique perspectives. We're both from different, I'm a proud Gen X. and really do in many ways identify with sort of my generational identity, as it were, but also knowing that generational identity is so generalized and sometimes can be real limiting for us. And so, I love that we approached this conversation and wanted to just open it up.
Yeah. Well, hi, everyone. I'm a quintessential millennial, but Stephanie, I'm very curious about, because I think that we have the same goal in mind, but I think we were coming from maybe different perspectives. So would you be interested in sharing your focus, or what you were centering your ideas around, talking about the generations?
Yeah, because I think that it was the idea that while we might have different perspectives, they're really valuable. And there's just so much influence out there that sort of divides us and maybe makes us, kind of judge each other or blame each other in different ways. And then we all lose out on this wisdom that we have to share with each other. And so to me, the different perspectives is the feature, not the bug. That's what makes it so cool. Yes, we have so much to talk about and learn from each other. But if we're constantly being sort of pulled this way and that by media perspective or political or cultural or whatever it is that's telling us that we're so very different, so much so that in some ways we don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. And so for me, that was a real big driver to just simply open up conversations. I mean, what about you? What was, I know you had strong, passionate thoughts about this as well.
Well, I will say that hearing you talk about your perspective makes me realize we're a lot more alike than we are different. I just want to add to it, with my education in interdisciplinary social science, I'm looking at it in the same way that you are, and focusing on social issues where we have in America, our elderly, they're outcast from society. Most of them, if they're unhealthy, they're living in retirement or I think they're assisted living facilities. So they're isolated from the rest of us. So we're missing that wisdom from them. And we have our youth who, as a millennial, I like to think that I had to grow up quickly. I had to co-parent my siblings. And, I think that there's other young people out there, or, people that are now older, that had to grow up early in their youth, or now everyone's concerned about what school you're getting into. What are you doing after you graduate high school? So now our kids are overwhelmed and lonely, anxious, and depressed. So what is going on? Like we isolate one another in these, and we grow up and we work and live and play in homogenous, like little small homogenous pods. So I'm like looking at it like, I guess I'm questioning like also why it is the way that it is, because it doesn't serve us. We can see it does not serve us. And then I'm curious like how we can work together. And I think our conversation is doing just that, like asking how we can work together to rectify the situation. So that's what I'm
Very much
thinking.
so. I think you're right on point. And I think in the vein of how it doesn't serve us, when we back away from just what's happening in the workplace, which is significant, what's happening in the workplace from, boomers are obviously retiring and moving out of that space, but they're still there. They're not done yet, and they have a lot to contribute. Gen Xers, are really in that space of like kind of stepping into those leadership roles in a particular way, as are millennials aging very much into the leadership space. They're not kids anymore in the way that they have sort of been frozen in time in this like weird millennial space.
Forever teens.
Forever. And so, it's like I had a conversation the other day with it was a previous employee. He worked for me. It's been over a decade now, or right at a decade. It's been about a decade, right? And it's like I was thinking about. I was like, I mean, he wasn't even a kid then. It's like now, he's got 2 kids, and he's like just moved into this wonderfully awesome senior position that, it's just been great to watch him like grow into this role. But then, when I'm talking to him, I'm like, he's 45. Like, what? I mean, of course he should be in this role. It's like, so this is like that dichotomy of like what we're conditioned, even when we know, like, even in my own brain where I fully have like, I don't carry that known bias, but the conditioning is always there of like having to remind myself, like, wow, this is, and so, yeah, I think it's important to just break through those biases, because they do impact how we communicate with each other and what we're hearing and what, just how we perceive each other.
1000%. I think that is so funny that you're like, oh, you're in this role? Like,
I'm like,
he's 45 with a mortgage.
I mean, it's ludicrous when you really like lay it out. But as we know, even through going through the audition process and talking to people, these are very real perspectives that people hold. That these stereotypes and beliefs that they're really ingrained in us. And we've really been conditioned in sometimes ways that even for me was surprising. To sort of see some of the ways that people were, and I think everybody was like very genuine and very heartfelt too. So it's not even to say like, there's an intentional negativity here, but it is a bias, and we're very conditioned by these biases. So
I will say I've been conditioned to the negative biases, because I was not surprised by any of the responses. I think I was surprised by the level of optimism and the interest of uniting, but I was not surprised by the the bias of other generations, because I think with being a millennial is right now we're getting bullied by Gen Z, which it's kind of like heartbreaking, because I respect like their generation so much, and as a millennial who's been thinking about how can I center living as like a priority in life versus work. Like I feel like Gen X and baby boomers have centered work as like a core identity. And so when I see Gen Z, I see hope, and I'm optimistic about the future of work, not only for myself, but for the rest of us. I think about, wow, it'd be great if, our elders could actually retire and live and afford to live, but work if they like want to work, but not be forced to work to survive. I think about like how that would be helpful, and then, how it would create more of the kind of relationship I had like with my family growing up, where like the intergenerational family dynamic where I lived with my grandparents and my parents and, my siblings. And as kids, we kept our grandparents pretty, you know, full of life. And, our parents were able to go
Absolutely.
out and actually work while, my grandmother stayed at home and cooked and, took care of us. And we were able to just go explore as kids, right? And I think about how kids now, like I look at some of my friends who have families, young families, and they are stressed out because they're
Mm.
working and having to pay, like someone is paying like 1,500 a week for childcare,
And
you
I'm
know?
but the concept of it takes a village is really truly a generational concept, and that is something that
So
socially
true.
we've really missed out on, because that village wasn't like, I mean, yes, it is the community, but really that village was your family of generational, your, just like you described, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the all of these different people that, and we're so dispersed, not just really
Dispersed.
divided, but dispersed, where, I mean, I don't know about you, but my parents, my mom lives in Texas and my dad lives in another state. I have close
Mhm.
family members all over the country, and so that element, like when I was a kid, when we think about like generational nostalgia, a nostalgic thing for me were family reunions.
Oh my
And we
gosh.
had them. I mean,
I
like
miss family
every summer,
reunions.
like people I didn't even know, but I knew them every summer, at least for one whole Sunday and a whole bunch of good food. I knew those, second
Yes.
cousins, and it mattered, and it let you see sort of like the expansion of your identity in a way. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I belong in this group in a way. And then it's like something that we just don't get anymore. Like, I don't think I could make it happen if I tried. I wouldn't even know like how to bring the entire group
How?
together.
How?
Like they're
Everyone's working. And then you have like if people didn't have work as a barrier, right? Then we would be back at square one, where you have the elders that feel like the younger generations are entitled and they don't know their elbow from their kneecap. And then you have the younger generations who feel like the elders are just stodgy and set in their ways. And I think both are true. I think both are right, and uh, we are leading a change in saying, okay, both can be true. Now what? You
mm,
know, um, you
absolutely.
going back to what you said earlier, you mentioned that like during our casting call, we had a lot of interesting, we had a lot of people, one, engage in our casting call, but then two, the auditions were so much fun. And like I said, we had some interesting responses. What was like the most like interesting response or something that like caught, like took you back a bit?
Took me back a bit. Um, there were two things. One, I'll speak to one thing first and then follow in on the second one to follow up with. But the first one was the Gen Zers. To your point of what you were saying earlier, for me, they were a joyful surprise
Mhm.
in terms of, like, I think the negative stereotypes of generations. For me, they seem to be sort of the least conditioned, which might make sense because of their age or what have you. But also, it seemed like they sort of seem to embrace things like nostalgia more, or things that might
Yeah.
tie to other generations more. And I found that to be really surprising and very hope inspiring for me. Um, One thing that to me came up, I think in the response forms, it came up more than once. And this for me was kind of surprising. We asked a question related to how generations, was a good or a bad thing to have like diverse generations in the workplace. And there
Mhm.
was more than one response that sort of alluded to the fact that it was maybe a distraction or sometimes problematic. And I think that that's something that I'd like to dig into more and
Mm.
understand where, are these challenges that are challenges that can be resolved through maybe like a better understanding of each other and how we work together, or are these issues of being conditioned and sort of projecting your own experience onto the generations that you're working with. So that was something that I wasn't sure really, like, I'm curious about it, I guess. That's what I would say. I'm very curious about it.
That is very interesting because there's an article by Harvard Business Review. I think it's called Why We Need Intergenerational Friendships at Work. I think that's it. But the author essentially like highlights like how it's a competitive advantage to have multiple generations working together, not only on the same team, but on a project, because they can problem solve like that. Because think about it, you have the wisdom of the elders. They've like been around the block, they know the client, they know exactly how like how the product works, because they've been selling this product forever, what have you. But you need innovation to solve problems, you know, so that's why having a youth there, they can like, they don't have the bias of wisdom, right? It's a whole new problem for them. It's a new challenge for them. So they can see things that wisdom will often cast a shadow over. So like you, I'm also curious as to like, what are the actual dynamics that makes it like disruptive in like those individuals like workplaces? Is it something like they don't have the time to upskill the younger person? You know, maybe some folks like to like I find like younger people enjoy like talking more, asking more questions. So maybe that could be an issue, but that also goes back to time. Is it, you know, are like some people feeling repressive, so they're acting out? Like, I'm curious about like what exactly is happening, because HBR is saying that companies that have multiple generations working together see more success.
In my experience, that is 100% true, like anecdotally speaking. And anytime I've been in an environment where there has been a diversity of generation, it's like all aspects of the work, when the environment itself is healthy, this is really key, but all aspects of the work become more informed, become more invigorated, richer, and on every level. And it's interesting when I'm in environments where my experience with whatever generational group I'm in, I mean, many times I've been, you know, sort of the oldest person on my team, literally even older than my boss, you know, where when I say I'm the oldest, I am the oldest person on my team. And it's just the way it is. And that's perfectly fine. I don't mind showing up that way, but I also don't show up that way in the context of, I guess I'm not like labeling us all by our ages, right? Like that's sort of one of the least important aspects of our work together. You know, it's more like what are we bringing to the table and our ideals and how we're showing up as people and all of those things. And so I'm always suspect of people when they tell me, like, when they have some like blanket statement about a generation, or, you know, when I was really heavily in leadership, it was when millennials were coming into the workforce. So at that time, I mean, as you know, there was literal vitriol, like so much so that I actually wrote a paper on it. It made me so angry. Like I wrote a blog post on it, and because so many people would just openly, you know, say like, oh, the millennials are so needy, or they ask too many questions, or, you know, they can't, and they would say these things. And I'm like, really, that's interesting, because I find them to be curious, not needy. And I find them just wanting to understand, you know, like how they're using their time and why, as opposed to just blindly following orders with like no understanding whatsoever of how it impacts. And so I don't see these as bad things, right? I'm like, answer the question, like answer, like, And I think most people were just jealous because they couldn't ask those questions. That's what I think. I think they got angry.
You hit the nail on the head, because I think that there's some shadow side of human nature where you like the use of entitlement. I think, wow, like someone saying that they want time off, they want work, like life work balance is entitlement. Like that is wild. I think that you're, like you said, upset, angry that this group of people had the audacity to say, hey, we don't like that. I would like this instead. So but I think that is what Darwin is all was talking about. Like that is like evolution. And I think that
Absolutely.
we should rejoice when each generation has it better than what we
That
had,
should be the goal.
right?
That should
Because
be the goal.
and I think that would also eliminate like some of like the grief that the older generations have about like the youth not knowing. Like I shared this with you, I think that my youngest brother, he's Gen Z, and he was sharing with me like how Gen Z does a really good job protesting and how like they're the generation that protests. And I just thought, wow, there's so many other generations that protest. And at protest, there's not just one group, like one demographic of people. Protest is like
Right.
usually like a team effort. So it's,
There's a lot of people.
people, there's a lot of people there. And I think people that share that same vision will walk alongside you. I digress. But I think one of the annoyances that the older generations see is like those kind of instances where like, oh, well, the youth, we're leading this. But I think if we focus on creating and talking about how we can get better with each generation, then they wouldn't feel the need to say those things. And I think it's really like the older generation is demanding respect and the younger generations are asking for respect. They're like, hey, these are the things that we're doing. Can you please respect us and stop like being mean towards us? And I think that's what my brother was saying. Like, hey, I'm not entitled.
Yeah.
Look at all the things that I'm doing. And I respect that. Like I respect him and all the other young people, Gen Alpha, everyone that's coming after us and then even before us for making changes and advancements. And I think that we should just all stop and realize that we all want the same thing. And I think that's like, the societal perspective of like this generational divisiveness.
I absolutely. I really, a lot of times when people just, I do spend a lot of time defending younger generations to Gen X and up, frankly. And because again, the statements are usually they're just thoughtless in the content of, I will often ask, like, how much time do you spend with other generations? Like, where are you getting this perspective from? Is this really your experience, or is this the experience that you're told you're going to have? And I think that that's worth exploring because I don't, again, to our point, like we are dispersed in many ways, not just by distance, but also we're segregated in many ways, and culturally speaking, it is hard for us to, connect outside of, frankly, any of our groups, right? Like any of our demographics that we have push us apart. And so I think it is a challenge that people just simply don't have the experience. So they go on what they're told. That's not always good, right? That's usually not good at all.
Then your brain turns into mush because you're stagnant, and I think that's sometimes we get comfortable and not interested in a challenge. So I think that it's just like challenging our own norms and beliefs. Every Sunday, we have this weekly Zoom call, and I shared with them
Love that.
our generation series, and there was so much excitement, and I highlighted, my focus and what I thought about it. And the elders in my family really just stuck their claws into the elders having wisdom. Like, yes, we have wisdom, and that's all they kept repeating. And you should listen to this and X, Y, and Z. And I had to remind them that I said that, the youth brings about change. So what is it like? Where do you think that we could, see a change that would be beneficial to us all? And it went back to like their ideology. And one of my cousins like shared something that they wanted to see change. And, it was like a friction because they were like, whoa, that's not bad. Like, this is like, you should do it this way because it's always been done that way. So I think being open to change will allow both sides of the coin to like come together. I'm curious about, your thoughts on, before we transition the to talking about our Jeopardy game. I'm curious about your thoughts around the question that we asked our contestants about like how often they spend time with other generations. Like, was there any one that was as cross-pollinated amongst generations as you'd hope or would like to see?
I think that was, there were definitely some people that were very like cross-generational in their response. But I'll be honest that I felt like there were more people that really did seem sort of limited in their access to other generations. And so, again, it reinforced for me why we're doing what we're doing, because it is important. It's a random thing, I had a daughter young. So I had a daughter when I was 20. So she is a millennial. She's 33. And I don't give advice often, but when I have like my stored piece of parent advice, if somebody ever says you have parental advice, this is my one piece of advice, but I'm not spanning it to the whole wide world. My one piece of advice that I always give to parents is you can plan all you want to be a good parent and what you're going to teach your child, but you never know what your child is brought here to teach you. So make sure that you are open to receive that lesson as well, because I assure you, they will teach it to you whether you are open to it or not. And I think that is something generationally, like as elders, that we should all feel for the younger generation. And we have a lot to convey to them, and that is wonderful. But they have something to teach us. And if we aren't receptive to that, we are the ones that will miss out on that. And that is sad. And so we need to open our minds and not be so scared, and be willing to like take that risk and approach somebody and ask them a question about who they are, or what, you just be interested in them to learn. And I just feel like more people would be so rewarded. We all would be rewarded by that.
Stephanie, that was profound wisdom. I am taking that all in. That was beautifully said, Stephanie. Oh my gosh. Well, let's take a quick break and when we come back, we'll discuss the fun part of our Generation Jeopardy. All right, we are back and we are ready to discuss how we're going to move forward with the clash of the generations. Just kidding. We're here to have a good old family fun game of Generation Jeopardy.
I like saying that we're going to figure out which generation's in the most Jeopardy.
Well, which generation's in the most Jeopardy? That's hilarious. Ooh, Stephanie, well, I just want to tell everyone that Stephanie is the mastermind behind our generational Jeopardy game. I added a few questions, but Stephanie really like built this from the ground up. So when you watch our generational, our Jeopardy games that are coming up next following this episode, you will be wowed and impressed. So Stephanie, what was your favorite categories of the game?
Oh my gosh, we have such great categories.
They were so witty and funny.
First of all, I love to acknowledge compliments. So thank you very much, Shaniqua, for that wonderful compliment. But I do want to say that our categories were very brainstormed together, and they are awesome. Okay.
They're so good.
We solely came up with them. I think we have some like classic categories like gatekeepers, which, something that I think we should all be thinking about. And I like the generational trauma too. I thought that was a powerful category that kind of resonated with everybody. And then we have some fun ones. So we had a couple, like, of course we had Fantastic. So
the Fantastic was great. Just a quirky catch-all for I think they were really, really good. One of my favorite ones, you did your thing with the social justice.
Oh,
that category was amazing.
It was. I liked emoji talk also because I learned.
Okay, the emoji talk, I just want everyone to know that I find it very like funny whenever like trying to figure out like the emojis to use. I'm a thumbs up person, and I found out that my friends thought I was being very condescending. I stopped using that, and stopped texting altogether. However, I don't know if you're ever gonna show anyone else besides me the eggplant marketing. Oh my gosh. But I feel like the eggplant had everyone, like Gen X and baby boomers and the silent generation in a chokehold. Like y'all were just using the eggplant very innocently. And I don't understand why
and
y'all
the
are using
peach.
it.
And
the peach.
We just
The
like
eggplant and the peach.
we're home cooks, okay?
How many eggplants and peaches were y'all consuming?
Let me actually tell you, first of all, and this is, okay, now we are based in Central Texas. I don't know how many people know that, but eggplants and peaches grow really well here.
Oh, I need to come by. I need some peaches.
So, it was lost on us. We did not necessarily, and for someone, honestly, I'm going to take a hit on this. Like, I actually specialize and have a level of expertise in symbolism. So it did upset me that it took me a minute to catch up with that. But let me assure y'all, this was a long time ago minute. Okay, I've known about the eggplant for a while. But the learning moment for me was the thumbs up. And, recognizing like, oh, again, this language, this is a language. It is ever evolving, like all languages do. And it's, again, something. And so this is all the boomers and Gen Xers out there. You can go search emoji current dictionary, okay? Like, and like, or even things like, how does Gen Z use emoji? And you too can learn this language. And I'm just a shout out to Gen Z. You can also learn cursive. Okay, so I'm just saying, we can have crossover here.
It's hilarious. You can learn cursive. They're like, what? I will say,
it's gonna become
like,
a secret language soon.
It will be. I do that now to my brother when I don't want him to know something. I'm writing it, and that's my brother's. They stopped teaching cursive like very early. But I was gonna share, like, I think, like you were saying, it's evolving language, and it's like there's different dialects in texting. Like my millennial friend group and I, like we text like we're back on AIM. It's a lot of like short to the quick, like lots of acronyms, emojis. My youngest brother does not like to use emojis. He will like react to a text message. He won't respond to a text message. And so I feel like it's like different dialects across groups. My mom, texting is like, she's texting as she is talking to you. So that's like a different thing. And it's a novel. And I have to tell her texting etiquette, it's not a novel. That's a phone call.
Yeah.
So it's like and like you said, like we shouldn't get upset. It's just like when you travel to another country, another part of the country, you speak the dialect or you speak the language and you figure it out.
At least you try to participate and understand it as much as you can. And so that should be the mindset. We should always be in this sort of curious learning mindset about what we can learn about each other. Instead of, because I think, most people do get upset when they feel like they feel like they are ignorant or they don't know something or it makes them uncomfortable. And so the easy route is to just, project like negativity about, oh, well, I don't need to know that, or that's whatever, that's not important, or that's stupid, or whatever, to like project onto it. But really, it's like, don't worry about that you don't know, just be more curious about learning. And you'll just naturally, and every now and then you might do something like put a giant eggplant on a marketing campaign and have your millennial team look at you like, what are you doing? We can't promote sexuality through marketing. And you
sexual
look at them
innuendo.
like, what are you talking about?
What is sexual about an eggplant?
It's a true story, that it really happened. But it was learning. I learned. I was glad to be educated. Happy to be educated.
You did learn. You did learn. That was, oh my gosh. I'm so
The
glad that you
campaign
had
turned
that.
out beautifully once we got through the kinks. The kinky. I'm sorry.
That was a good one. Oh my gosh. She's here all night, folks. Oh my gosh. That was amazing.
It's terrible. Look, I'm blushing. It totally makes me blush.
So Stephanie and I can talk to each other all night, all day, but we want to tell you about our upcoming episodes, what you can expect next from FITI Vodcast. So our next episode is going to be Jeopardy against the baby boomers and the millennials. Stephanie, who do you think is going to take this one?
It's going to be tough, I think. Honestly, it's like I've gone back and forth with all of these generations, but I want to say that boomers are going to show up strong, but my gut tells me that millennials are going to own that. Or, that's my feeling. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong. I feel like boomers are really going to show up strong. So
I feel I'm with you on that. I think the boomers, like our boomer contestants that we've interviewed, we auditioned, they were really strong. They were awesome. Snazzy, excited to be there. So let's see if the millennials have what it takes. And the next episode will be Gen Z versus Gen X. Did I say that right?
Well, you know who I'm rooting for. I mean, I'm gonna go with my bias here.
Gen X.
Go X.
As every millennial that has possibly told you, I wish I was Gen X too sometimes. It's amazing.
Oh, it's like, it's no lie that the Gen Xers, we do think that we're the coolest generation. It's part of our identity code.
Yeah. I wish I were an adult in the 90s. I wanted to be a club kid so bad. I was too young.
I'm not gonna lie. I loved being an adult in the 90s. I was 20 to 30 from 90 to 2000, and I met the actual club kids. I really had those experiences, and it was freaking fantastic. I really
so jealous.
I have real nostalgia about the 90s. But the 90s, they have their own dark side, and that's real too. And so, we could certainly, that could be a whole, that right there, we could do a whole topic on this decade and talk about kind of their shadow and their light.
Oh my gosh, that take us forever, but I would be interested in that. Well, I think we should tell everyone about our contestants. Representing the baby boomers, we have Ted, the retired pilot. Woo!
He is amazing too. Oh my God, did Ted bring the energy? And he's got some great stories. Oh my gosh.
He does. We for the millennials, we have Victoria. She's a trust and vulnerability coach. And Ted and Victoria will face off in the first episode.
So exciting.
And for Gen X is represented by Ed. He's an IT extraordinaire. Ed, go Ed, go Ed.
We love Ed. Ed's the man.
And Ed is going to be facing off with our Gen Z contender, Chloe Fiona. She's a dancer. She's an artist. She's a grad student. Chloe.
And I think it's important to know that it's Chloe Fiona or Chloe or Fiona. I like that. I like options. I like somebody who's got versatility.
He has options. And I'm really excited to see everyone. I'm curious about our audience's votes on who's going to win what. Who's going to meet in the finale and face off and ultimately be the generation in Jeopardy.
That's right. Our third episode of the will be the finale, and we will be bringing the winners of the first and second games together. And so definitely, audience, throw your votes in and let us know who you think, what generation is in the most Jeopardy. Going back to where we started.
Uh, I've really enjoyed this one. Has been such a fun series to create. I mean, it's been possibly the most work that we've had to do in the least amount of time, but the most fun for sure.
Really pushed our creative energy and definitely lets me know that like the sky is literally the limit for us. And I don't even think that's a limit, honestly. Like this is so exciting. I can't wait to see the games. Oh my gosh.
Right? Oh my gosh. Well, Stephanie, do you have any final takeaways or thoughts?
Ah, my final takeaway is just to really, for me personally, just to keep putting myself out there and making those connections and modeling and teaching other people that it's okay to do it, to really connect with these other generations and stay open-minded. Like, see what you learn about yourself. It's just, I don't know. It's been such an incredible experience getting to meet and talk to so many different people. And for me, way, way more positive than anything, just very inspirational and positive. So what about you?
I feel that one of my favorite cross-generational friendships is with you, and been like stretching and growing together. And um, I I think that like removing the fear, because I think we're all just a little afraid, will help
Yeah.
us like just come together. So I remain very optimistic about our future and breaking this ridiculous, silly little cycle where we can all come together singing Kumbaya or whatever our song will be. You know, it doesn't have to be Kumbaya. Maybe that's the old thing. Be something new. So
Absolutely. Oh my God, absolutely so much. Well, this has been great. I'm so excited for our work together. And you know what, generationally, we are a gift to each other, like for sure. We are fortunate. Yes. So I guess for our audience, stay posted. We expect to see you at the show.
we'll see you at the show. Leave in the comments who you think it will come out on top as the winner. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you prefer audio, you can listen to our podcast on whatever platform you like. And until next time, I hope you innovate and illuminate.
Absolutely. Let's all get together and vibrate higher. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to our show. Show us your support by following us on your favorite podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen.
You can also find us on Castus at FromIlluminationToInnovation.castus.com. If you love our show, share it with your friends and coworkers too. Let's all work together to help businesses vibrate higher.